This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast, your sanctuary with retreat experts, where we spill the tea on retreat success. Here we dive into craft and transformational guest experiences, talk about how to avoid pitfalls, and unlock marketing secrets. Whether you're a seasoned guru or a budding enthusiast, we've got the inside scoop for you. Join us as we learn how to flourish in this magical world of retreats. Hey everyone, welcome back or welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. It's Shannon. And today I'm super excited about my guest that we have on the show because I think we're going to talk about something that is desperately needed in this space, even though as you are listening, you're going to disagree with me. And so I'll probably have to come up with some catchy hook line so that you'll come in here and listen to this or watch this on YouTube. Because a lot of people in this space don't realize that there's a certain role that they are fulfilling. And so they tend to fall flat on their face or experience a lot of obstacles because of this. So anyhow, welcome Adrian to the show. I'm excited you're here.
Yes, good to be here, Shannon. Thank you.
Yeah, would you just start off by telling us a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure. Adrian Koehler, live out in West Hollywood, California. Been out here 20 years, grew up in the middle of nowhere, 7,000 people in Illinois. And I've done lots of different types of work, everything from being an intensive care nurse out of college to helping run a 3,000 person church. And I was like the social action guy, so built teams nonstop and sent folks in the nonprofit world and across the ocean and to go make a difference, whatever that was. And that was a blast. And we taught leadership stuff then. The organization I was with was partnered with Gallup at the beginning of StrengthsFinder. And so we were StrengthsFinder folks. And I've always been into human psychology, human behavior, human motivation, and effectiveness. And, at the end of the day, making a difference. So I've always been a leader. Didn't take a vote on that. It just has been there. I don't know. I'm bothered. All leaders are bothered by something. Otherwise, you just go follow. But then I ran a foundation. We ran leadership trainings in prison with murderers. And then I've been coaching founders of companies for the last 15 years. And with that, aligning leadership teams, because all business issues are human issues. It's a lot of conflict, not conflict management. It's actually generating conflict because they can't get somewhere because they're avoiding, we call it riding the elephant or hugging the cactus. It's like a lot of people give themselves credit for pointing out the elephant in the room, and that's like barely getting started. Like, bravo. And now we got to ride that elephant because there's a lot that needs to happen. So that's what I get to do. I wake up every day, get to talk to amazing, brilliant people that are a lot smarter than me, and then I'm a pain in the ass. I'm a paid noticer of what they don't want me to notice, what they don't want to talk about, we talk about, and I love people deeply, and I just call it fierce advocacy. So that's my work.
Yes. Okay, there's so much goodness in here. One, in your experience and your history. I also worked with people in what would you call it, the prison industry? It's not a good
it's a big
term.
industry.
But it is a big industry.
Yeah.
And so I also worked with that demographic for quite a few years. And I'm also a lover of people, but I too can be called a pain in the ass because I'm going to love on you and then point out some of the things that you might want to look at that you haven't thought about looking at. And that's kind of what I want us to do today, Adrian, is I want people who are listening who are either already holding space for retreats or are considering adding it to their current business lineup to understand the modalities, the intricacies of running a business and being in a leadership role, because that is what you are as the host of the retreats. You're the one that is contracting with contractors, arranging all the legal details, managing the personalities that are happening in the space. And so I really loved how you talked about the elephant in the room. Because I think people who hold space
there's a little glitch somewhere and they want to just wish it away.
Sure.
Pray it away, zen it away, whatever the hell they're thinking. They're just like hoping it'll go away. So talk a little bit more about that.
Well, even the phrase hold space is fascinating, because like their job is to just generate a space, and then what's going to happen? Like just whatever happens, happens. Or, and even as we were getting started, one of my questions to you, or one of the questions that came to me, I don't know if I said it out loud or just to myself, is I wonder what their felt pain is. Like if you're running a retreat and it's not working, first off, do you even notice that it's not working? And do you care if it's not working, or is it just a vanity play? I'm not huge in the retreat space. I've been to retreats. I've run plenty of retreats, but I'm not a guy that goes on a ton of retreats. I do have plenty of opinions about folks that tend, not that everybody does this, but might just tend to, position themselves as some kind of guru and hope they can make $100,000 on a thing and wherever. But instead of, so you could hold space, or you could generate a space. Those are two very different attitudes. And there are benefits to not taking full responsibility for something.
I think I just to interrupt real quick. I think I know what you're saying. So holding space is really not taking responsibility, is what I'm hearing. It's more like allowing what's going to happen, and you're just creating a safe space for it. Is that what you're talking about? Versus generating space, which is you're taking control of the situation and driving the results.
Well, I'm not saying that like holding space is not taking responsibility necessarily. Even just the phrase that just hit me is that like my job is to create the container, but you might want to do that with your clients when they're there, depending on what the promises of the retreat are. But even if you're pulling together a team, people need to like to be led well, which is to give a clear vision, to get opinions about what they think, to have a real honest conversation with people that are on their team about what their role is, what their commitments are, and to hold them to those, which is actually a very caring act. Most folks, especially if they're in like the health and wellness space, they tend to, have this idea that good feelings are the best feelings. And, it's like making somebody feel good is actually the best thing for them. And it just depends on, what your standards are. Because I always want both. Like, it's like, yes, be warmth and empathetic, and enforce. Like, what are we doing here? So back to what their pain points are. If people aren't aligned, it's because you're not aligning them. Or you've got the wrong people and you haven't had the right conversations, or the robust enough conversations. And if you're running a retreat and things are scattered, I guarantee you're not making as much money as you could.
Hey, it's Shannon here. I'm just popping in really quickly to ask a big favor. Would you pause the show and go review it for us? Please. Reviews really help us to be able to get more guests and more experts on the show to help you transform your retreats. So if you wouldn't mind pausing and leaving us a review, that would mean everything. And if you're not already subscribed, do that too.
Well, not only are you not making much money, but you're not creating that, we'll call it feel good, you call whatever you want, feeling for somebody to want to come back and to also tell people that they should come see you.
Right on.
I'm loving this, because one of the things that I talk about a lot is, first of all, having alignment in who you're wanting to serve and knowing what your promise is.
Yep.
So is your promise just a feel good party weekend, or is your promise to go into the dark side and come back out on the light, or just to dig into the dark? Whatever it is, like being super clear about your promise. But what I haven't talked about enough, and Adrian, you just brought it up, I don't know if you know you did, but is taking that promise and then transferring it into what that vision looks like for your team, the ones that you are working with, that you've contracted with, that's going to be your support person, your chef, all of the moving parts to your retreat, the facility, the lodging, all of it. And have you taken what your promise is, what your alignment and your promise is, and then have you taken that and given that clear vision to your team? And I got to say, I bet you the answer is no, more often than not.
Yeah, probably not. Most folks don't have, I said it the other day, like things end how they begin. So if you don't have all the conversations up front, you will have them at some point. They'll just come out. We call it the shit sandwich principle. Like problems come as a shit hors d'oeuvre, and who wants to eat that? So you send that to the kitchen. Then he comes back as a shit sandwich. Of course, you don't want to eat that. Eventually you have a shit buffet. But it's because you didn't talk about it in the beginning. And then you're unwilling to, and everybody's just going to say they're busy, but they're mostly, all of us are just cowards. Or we'll say, I didn't know how to bring it up, which is also a lie. I was unwilling to bring it up poorly, therefore I didn't bring it up at all. Or I was too precious with myself, or I was too right about it, or I was too judged, whatever our things are. This is just human being. It's not like, it's all of us. We're look good, feel good, be right, be in control. That's what a human being is up to until we tell it to do something else. So, most folks aren't going to sit down, even with all the contractors, like you talked about with the chef. It's like, yes, you might, you will be hiring the chef for competency, but do you have the conversation about attitude? Most people don't. Why? Because they don't even know their own commitments around their own attitude. So I can't go teach what I don't have. Can't be clear with them about what I'm unclear about. Or maybe, I work with founders of companies. They are renegades. Partially that's necessary, and they're pioneers. They're breaking the rules, very successful people, but they historically don't hold themselves to account, and they're entitled, right? Essentially, like, because I'm the jefe, because I started the thing, I get to do and say whatever I want. That's true, and then you get the results you have when you call me. So, but if somebody's running this thing, if they don't get clear with themselves, they can't be clear with other people. But I guess my main point there is that most of the issues are not competency based. Most of them are attitudinal. And that's why, working with somebody, in my world or whatever, or reading some kind of book or something, is good to just get really clear about how we're going to play ball together. Like when people say values, they usually mean nothing. Those are usually gestures. They're like nice things to say, but there's not like, what are our commitments to each other, even if it's just a project for these next 3 months? How are we going to be with each other? Nobody has that conversation. And they definitely don't have this second one, which is like, okay, here's wonderful. We'll all pinky swear and spit shake. And then we're not going to do it. I'm going to get mad and go off the handle. You're going to be late for a meeting. You're going to drop your thing. How do we handle it when it falls apart? Because it will. Because if you don't talk about it early, you'll avoid it. And then you're always training people how to be with you. So if you avoid small breakdowns, it's actually teaching the person, I don't care about your performance. So I never meet people that have that conversation.
Yeah, well, I can see how these can be tough conversations, especially if you're not willing to have the conversation with yourself first. I mean, you've kind of nailed it on the head. A lot of people have to first be super clear with themselves, and then get really clear with their team. And then the other thing that you mentioned, which is also what you're saying right now, is have accountability discussions. Yeah. So you've made your vision clear. You're holding people accountable to that. And when something goes south, because yes, it will, I actually wish I had $5 for every time a host has come to me and said a partnership fell apart, or a contractor isn't performing the way they want, or you feel it, because I also own my venue here. So when I'm having hosts come through, I can feel that there's disconnect. And if I can feel it, the guests can feel it, right? 100%. And so there's a breakdown somewhere. It's either being clear with themselves, being clear with their team, accountability, or all of it, as you would call a shit buffet.
Yeah, I mean, philosophically, the thing I'm always training my teams to do is be really hard on the problem and really soft on the person. That's usually distinct. I mean, we as human beings are shame machines. I don't know, anybody that doesn't kind of quote unquote struggle with shame. I don't actually believe that people struggle with shame. I think people strategically do shame because it gets them off the hook. That's a whole 2-hour conversation. But we like to like ourselves. We prefer someone else not be hard on ourselves the way we are. So when I say hard on the problem, soft on the person, is to be able to make a distinction between who Shannon is and what Shannon's doing. So then I can be in a conversation with you about that, so that we could talk about what's happening, not who you are. And
that's a really good distinction. Can you give me an example?
Well, sure. Let's say I'm coming to your venue, and let me think of an example here. Let's say we've signed a contract, we show up, it's got XYZ in it, and we show up and it's not as I thought it was, or not even as the contract says it was. This actually just happened for a retreat we do. And I can now say, oh, Shannon, she's trying to get over on me. She is a cheater. Like, she is, a swindler. And all of a sudden now you are my problem. And I'm going to be there for 3 or 4 days. So now I'm going to keep my eye out. Now, even if I'm the leader of the thing, how distracted am I going to be? Instead of being able to come to you and say, hey, Shannon, listen, I don't know what happened. But here's what I think, this and this and this, and here's how I think it. Here's why I think it. And here's what I'm seeing. So this is a problem for me. And I know I want this to go well with you. Do you want it to? You'll say yes.
I'm loving this so much.
Yeah,
I'm loving this so much.
So then you and I are on the same side of the table, metaphorically speaking, and now the problem is on the other side of the table. And you and I can look together at the problem or not, right? Then we can find out, maybe Shannon is sloppy and she tries to get off on people. Maybe she does. But we just had this at a venue. And they did not deliver on what they promised, and it got interesting. And if you can imagine, you mess with our team, it's coming. We'll come in really nice and sweet, and then eventually, we just talk to the owner of the hotel. And it's like, hey, but because we do what we do, we're like, hey, listen, we saw this and this, you should hire us because this could turn around. Your hotel's amazing, but your staff is reactive and ignorant and, makes accusations, which is just so unprofessional and unhelpful and blah, blah, blah. So, but if I can get on the same side of the table with you and separate, so you and I are now friends trying to solve the same thing. And that comes out of a presence, right? So if I am willing to, I always say current reality is always looking for a spokesperson. So if I can put language to the issues that I'm having and assume, if I'm talented, I can assume what the issues you are. Because if you have a venue, you hate having like problem hosts, right? Or entitled bitchy hosts, or like ignorant, sloppy hosts. You hate that too. It's a pain for you. So I don't want to be one of those people, Shannon, but I do have some issues that I'd love to work with you on so that these next 3 days are amazing.
Hey guys, it's Shannon. If you've been dreaming about hosting retreats or taking your existing retreats to the next level, let's make it happen together. Join me August 22nd through 24th for an unforgettable retreat leader mastermind experience. It's going to be located on my ranch in the beautiful Texas Hill Country. Here's what you'll get when you hang out with me and an amazing group of like-minded leaders. Learn my top strategies for marketing, business operations, and selling out your retreats. Connect with other passionate retreat leaders in a high-vibe, supportive circle. Recharge, relax, refresh, and soak up all the inspiration our ranch and our staff have to offer, because you deserve it. This isn't just another workshop. It's a chance to step fully into your role as a heart-centered leader while building a business that thrives. I'll be right there with you, sharing everything I've learned from the years of hosting retreats and running my own venue. Spots are super limited, so grab yours now at profitwithpurposemastermind.com. Let's create retreats that transform lives, starting with yours. That's profitwithpurposemastermind.com. I can't wait to see you there. I love this. Some of what I'm hearing is what we would classically call in the mental health sphere is I language.
Okay.
And so it takes away the defensiveness, right? Instead of, Shannon, you fucked up, and here's where you messed up. It's more like, I'm not sure what happened, but here's what I'm seeing.
Yes.
Right? And so that really does allow for both parties, even if they are the swindler, whatever it is, it does allow for both parties to look at the problem versus the person. And so I'm loving how you're using this in business in such an effective way.
Yeah. Well, another thing that might be helpful for listeners, I mean, if I showed up on site and I've got, 50 guests, I'm probably going to do my best to make it work, because that's really complicated if it doesn't work. Let's just imagine it was you and I, we signed a contract a year ago, and now we're 6 months in, and I'm noticing some things. And maybe I've got 10 people signed up already, and I'm on the hook in some ways. But if I'm committed to excellence, I want to see little problems early, which I talked about earlier. We call it the Parade of Horribles. So if I bring this to you and you are avoidant of it, okay, I'll bring it back to you again. And if you're still avoidant of it, then I would walk you through what I call the Parade of Horribles, which is, well, Shannon, if we don't get these things solved, let's talk about how bad this is going to get. First off, our relationship is going to be bad. Probably maybe our staffs that are coming together, that's going to be really contentious. I mean, what's the effect that going to be? I mean, and if that keeps going on, I mean, it's, at some point I'm going to have to cancel a retreat, and I don't know, I'm guessing you don't like doing that, and I'll leave a gap in your, retreat schedule. Or worst case, if it goes really poorly, I actually would probably be compelled to let other people know that I know that use your space out of just integrity. So, because I don't want them to have this experience. And it's like, you could walk it all the way out to the Parade of Horribles. When somebody's unmotivated to shift, that's what you do. You elevate the potential futures that are coming with all thought, feeling, behavior. Because every thought, every feeling, what I say feelings are just thoughts trapped in the body, but all behavior has a future. And it's good to label that. and good to let it get as bad as it can get, not to be dramatic about it, but to be honest about it, because it could get that place. And we know the human brain is like 5 times more motivated to avoid pain than to pursue pleasure. So it can be very naturally, now, it might have sounded like I was making a threat. I wasn't. I was just literally talking about what could happen that would be a lot worse than this. Like, you not getting back to my emails after a week. Like, that doesn't work for me. But, there's a future in that, which, I don't know what it means when you don't get back to my email for a week. I have a lot that I think it means, that I'm not that valuable to you, that you don't value your customers, that my issues aren't your issues. And I'm thinking about what that would be like if I had 50 people that have all paid 10 grand to be there. I don't want that future. So let's talk about this, because I see a future that I'm unwilling to have.
Yeah. Once again, I'm loving all of this. It's funny because I just wrote an article that people are more likely to ask for a prescription for pain medication than to sign up for vitamins.
Yes.
And so that's exactly right. In that whole
Yes.
concept, that's exactly right. What do you tell someone who's afraid to have those conversations, Adrian? They're just people out there who are afraid to have these confrontational conversations.
Well, I would say a lot of things. First off, your fear is purposeful. A lot of people think that fear is a problem. No, fear is an indicator. It's not a problem. It's just something that's happening. For me, it's like a light on my dashboard. Number one. Number two is because people just excuse themselves because they're afraid. But if you don't want to have these conversations, you ought not be responsible for something, because what you don't face will defeat you, period. So yes, you're scared. Makes sense. Why are you scared? It's vulnerable. They might not like you. You might be wrong. You might be rejected, all those kinds of things, but get over it. Yes. Welcome to life. You can generate a life that saves you from the feeling of fear. It's a very small life. Or you can generate a life that's worth walking with fear, walking through. That's called courage. I'm scared. I'll go anyway. But even owning the fear is actually a wonderful way to generate trust in a relationship. Hey, Shannon, there's something that we need to talk about. And I'm really scared to talk with you about it because I really care about you. And I want this to go well. So I don't know how to do it. And I could have not talk about it, but I think it would actually hurt the relationship. So even though I'm scared, I'm going to talk anyway. You're going to lean in.
I'm a huge fan of that. I am
Yes.
such a huge fan of leaning into it and allowing that to happen, because also that once again helps reduce the defensiveness on the other side.
Yeah.
Yet you're super clear that we're going to have this conversation. I'm afraid to have it, but we need to have it.
Right on. And even if you shared what you're afraid of, that's all camaraderie building. And the biggest thing is when you have the real conversation, it locates both parties. When you have half the conversation, you don't know where they are, and they for sure don't know where you are. So you don't actually have the real relationship. You have a gestured relationship, a fake one, and then you're gonna be upset that they didn't read your mind.
Yeah.
So I just grow a pair, I would say, or it's like there's also ways to get around it and ways to get through it. You can get some help. You can to have a tough conversation like this. You learn some stuff, you read a few books, you talk to somebody like me, and you just, but the biggest thing I think the most important thing is, yes, first off, yes, I'm scared. And by the way, who cares? Yes, I'm scared. I'm going to be scared. If it's not scary, it's usually not meaningful. So that's number one. Number two is get a vision that's worth suffering for, because this is a form of suffering. That'd be I think that's the authentic. Nobody says weird stuff like that except for me, but self-development, if it's done well, it's suffering. So you might pick something that's worth suffering for and be really bad at it until you're really good at it. So give yourself some permission to have some crappy conversations. But if you're humble enough, I do this in leadership trainings all the time, and I tell them right out, I said, hey, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes today, and that's okay with me. But here's where I'm at. I'm here to help you guys get where you want to go. And I don't know what's there. I don't know, but I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. And you can probably guess I am pretty robust, my methods aren't like, encourage people into their best future. It's like, no, we're going to get at it. I'm going to ask them questions and hold them to things they've hoped nobody else has noticed. So therefore, they're going to get offended a lot, which happens a ton, which is totally cool with me. I don't like that. I don't like people not liking me, but their future is more important than my comfortability. So if you're, so just think about them and think about the future, then, yes, I'm scared, but I'll go anyway.
Yeah, you tear some of the backlash of the fear right out of it when you look at it that way. So
Yeah.
I love it. And I love that you said, do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a practice and progress. And as long as you're being totally upfront about it and saying, look, I'm afraid to talk to you about this, and I'm not even sure I know how the hell to do it, but let's just lay it out. Here's what I was thinking, and here's what I'm seeing. And so, I mean, I love this. I love from the beginning. It's being clear with yourself, being clear with your team, having a clear vision, accountability, and then doing it afraid until you're good at it. So this is really good.
And it's good to get your head straight. I mean, I've got even like a stack of questions that I, work through myself or on my team or with clients. I call it mining the conflict. And just simply like state, maybe people would like something practical. So you're like, state the issue? What's the issue? Oh, Shannon doesn't get back to my emails for 2 weeks. That's the issue. Give some examples of the issue. Wonderful. What's my experience when the issue happens? Write that down. Here's a question nobody asks. How have I contributed to this happening, right? So let's say it's happened 3 times. Well, I didn't talk about it the first time. That's how I contributed. Or maybe I was passive aggressive. Oh, you must be on vacation, whatever. Like, it's like, okay, good. How did I contribute? Wonderful. What future's coming if it doesn't shift? That's the next question. What do you need? What do I need from you? What do you need from me? And then what commitments do we have moving forward? And you'll see if the person actually cares or they don't care. But if you walk through that type of thing, I'm just saying, like, don't just jump in to a conflict conversation that you aren't settled in. You need to understand where you are and have language for all the things that are happening, because otherwise it's just going to be an emotional battle. But talk about what's happening and talk about the future that's coming. And if you can do it without judgment and shame, usually if you're frustrated with somebody, you have lots of judgments of them. Right? So Shannon's sloppy. She's unprofessional, blah, blah, blah. All whatever judgments I might have. If I get off of those, then I'm going to be able to show up and see Shannon as a person who knows what's going on in her world. I want to figure out what's going on in her world, because everything we're doing is perfect in the sense that I say that intention equals impact. So whatever Shannon's doing, it makes sense to her that she's doing it. Why? Because it's happening, period. So that's what I say. And that kind of sounds whatever, strong or whatever, but just to think about that. Therefore, I'm in the conversation to get to know Shannon, because for some reason this works for her. So, but if I'm here not to judge her or change her, but understand her, then you're probably going to want to talk to her. You'll feel that you're like, hey, let's, that it generates an empathetic and resourceful and like an advocacy stance that hopefully the other person feels.
Well, and it becomes more productive rather than destructive.
Right on.
So, Adrian, I love this so much. I will have your information and your company's information in the show notes in case anybody wants to dig into this side of leadership, because I can guarantee as we head into the next decade of hosting retreats, if you are not taking the leadership aspect seriously, you will not last long in this realm. So thank you so much, Adrian. I really appreciate it.
Good to be here, Shannon. Thank you so much. Yep. Anybody can check us out. TakeNewGround.com, Adrian.K on Instagram. Love to talk to anybody.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. Learn more at www.theretreatranch.com. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Chris Gethard, and I'm very excited to tell you about Beautiful Anonymous, a podcast where I talk to random people on the phone. I tweet out a phone number, thousands of people try to call, I talk to one of them, they stay anonymous, I can't hang up, that's all the rules. I never know what's going to happen. We get serious ones. I've talked with meth dealers on their way to prison. I've talked to people who survived mass shootings. Crazy funny ones. I talked to a guy with a goose laugh, somebody who dresses up as a pirate on the weekends. I never know what's going to happen. It's a great show. Subscribe today, Beautiful Anonymous.